The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending. This isn't just a podcast. This is a call to action for all entrepreneurs who are tired of seeing their businesses and communities suffer while big business continues to grow by the billions. We challenge you to apply the content of our time together to create businesses that your clients can't resist, your employees love to work for, and your communities can depend on. Now is the time for Entrepreneurs Ascending. All right, here we are. And this is our first episode. So this is exciting. And we're excited to have our guest, Dr. Matthew Flory, here with us today for our very first episode. Hey, Dr. Flory, thanks for being with us today.
Good morning, Matt. I'm happy to be here with you. This is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before we get into all the details of why Dr. Flory is here, I just want to kind of let everybody know kind of the flow for the show today. Today, we're going to cast a little bit of vision. A little bit of vision for the show, why we're here, where we plan on going, and what do I even mean by, okay, this is a call to action. And because this is really starting with you and how you feel and how you can take what we talk about and implement. Well, it all starts with motivation. And there are a lot of factors that go into motivation, but there's a lot of factors that we don't always think about. We always attribute motivation to, well, we got to get in the right mindset and we got to think the right thoughts. And that's true to a degree, but there's a lot going on with health, with neurotransmitters and biology, physiology that affect that as well. And I wanted to kind of bring that up today and have Dr. Flory on with us today. So in the latter half of the show, we're going to dig into what that means, because that's something not a lot of people understand. And so you end up actually making the cycle worse because you beat yourself up because, oh man, I didn't get up this morning. I didn't feel like doing this. I didn't feel like doing that. I should have done this. I should have done that. When there might actually be some biological factors in there that you can take action on, feel a lot better, and help yourself get some traction, get out of that cycle of kind of self-abuse, and take your business and your life to the next level. So hopefully that casts some vision for this episode. So yeah, I'm excited, guys. I've known Dr. Flory for several years now, and had the honor of doing some work with him, and he's helping me with some stuff. So I just want to kind of bless you all with that as well. So, all right. So first of all, what is this show about? What is this show about? And what do I mean by call to action? This show isn't just about being something to passively listen to. I think a lot of people do that with podcasts or speakers or education. You listen to it, you think some good ideas, and you're gonna probably implement them later, maybe when you get around to it. But actually, there's that motivational speaker high too, right? So like you listen to something, get really excited about it, you think you're gonna do it, and then like a day later, it's gone. All that motivation's gone, and you think like, oh man, I don't know what happened, but it just life got busy, right? So what I mean by this call to action is that our small businesses in this country have suffered because of COVID, because of regulation, and big businesses have grown in the billions. I'm not saying big business is bad necessarily. There's been great things that have come out of Walmart, Amazon in terms of logistics and robotics and research and development. That stuff is awesome. However, we're losing that balance, and I think that communities are losing ground to those big business because small businesses, they pour into their communities. When somebody buys from a small business, that money circulates back into other businesses around, into nonprofits around, and more of it just gets back to everybody there. It goes to the parks, local parks, it goes to the streets. So small local businesses are absolutely necessary for strong communities to have the money that they need to be able to thrive and grow. So when a lot of our money goes to companies in other states or just other countries, we lose that locally, right? So I'm calling on all you entrepreneurs and business owners to think bigger about your business, to think about the impact, the contribution that you have to those around you, to your clients' lives, to your employees' lives, to your vendors' lives, and the nonprofits that you work with, and the other small businesses in your towns and your cities that you contribute back to as well, because you do business with them. So when we talk about motivation, right, sometimes it can be really, really hard to get up in the mornings, and we have to really get connected with something deeper, right? So Dr. Flory, when you get up in the morning, is your main focus, well, I just got to make more money? Is that what gets you out of bed in the morning? Is it I got to make more money, or is there something else?
I think that you can't deny, there's that component present, but it certainly isn't, an underlying motivating factor. In hearing some of your dialogue there in the intro, personally, I come definitely from one of these industries where the industry itself is in a battle, right, with a larger industry entity, right? And so that really kind of hits home. And I've seen in myself personally the power that comes with empowerment, right? And the motivation just that naturally that flows through myself and clients. But again, like I've experienced this myself and experienced the lows too, right? And so I think then for me it becomes just a passion about being able to tap into that myself, knowing that it is going to flow through very naturally, and that's going to impact other people. And people in relationships are certainly, you can kind of see my happiness, right, with my days and how things flow based on the people you connect with, right? Like those are the better days, and when maybe there aren't such great connections there, those are days that seem kind of hard to trudge through. So I think that's more where that seat of motivation really exists, at least for me.
Yeah. Impact, that impact that you're having on people's lives. I know that. That's why I started what I do in the first place. So, to give you guys a little bit of background, the audience, guys and gals, and however you identify. I'm sorry, I say guys generally. Hopefully, I don't offend anybody, but we embrace and love everyone. So, just to be clear. So, the reason that I do what I do, actually, it started with learning about microfinancing. And microfinancing is where you give small loans, especially in struggling communities, very common in like third world countries, where people have to walk 10 miles to get clean water. And when you do microfinancing, you give somebody a small loan to start a small business. And you empower them and you equip them and teach them how to use that. And they're able to grow a small business. It starts building this community. And they're able to employ other people and bring in other people from other towns and do business with other towns. And it starts to bring in more of that wealth, whatever level that might be in that community, but it brings in more wealth into that area. And other people are able to start other businesses and build around it. It's very, very common for when you see like a struggling area, a struggling city, village, to see it really grow when you see those kinds of efforts being made. But it's not dissimilar in good communities when you have those businesses they're growing, thriving, and building relationships. So for me, I've been consulting for over 16 years now, and just learning and growing, and I've been in the coaching realm for about 5 years now, and it's just incredible having that impact. It was always about how do I help business owners create the kind of businesses that give them great lives, but also their families and their employees. And it gives back to the communities that they work in, and it helps other businesses around them that they're able to refer to and work with, and the good kinds of companies that really take care of folks. Because I mean, how many in this audience they've probably been a victim to a great business that they thought it was great, or at least they had a job, okay? And then all of a sudden they show up on a Friday and it's supposed to be payday. The lights are off, the furniture's gone, nobody's there, and you realize with this sickening gut feeling that you're never going to see the paycheck that you just worked the past 2 weeks for. And that happens way too often. And we saw a decrease in 2020 of about almost 30% of small business. Almost 30% of small businesses like went under, from restaurants to hospitality, and there were some groups that were thriving, but there was a lot that suffered, and I think we're going to see that a lot more. But I think we're going to see that resurgence of small business, of people who want to take control of their lives. Unfortunately, if they don't have the personal growth mentality, if they don't say, how can I not only do better than the crappy place I worked before, pardon my French, but because I hear that all the time, well, why'd you start your business? Well, because I worked for a real jerk, and I wanted to be better than him. Okay, great. So you set the bar really, really low. You work for a jerk. That bar is really, really low. But what could you do if you operated at your highest level? If you built the sales and marketing systems that attracted and retained awesome clients, the grade A clients, the people that you love to work with, right? And they paid you what you were worth, right? They paid you well. And you had a great team of employees that served them, that they were on mission with you, that they just loved doing it. And you know what? They love their job so much that you're able to delegate things to them. And you improved your delegation skills, that you're able to delegate. And you put the right tools in place to be able to automate those other things that maybe you shouldn't be doing and you should be letting other people do, right? And you're able to control your finances and your profitability, and it allows you to be able to expand into other markets and expand your impact on people's lives. So what would you be capable of if you operate at your highest level? Now, this is that call to action part is quit settling for the mediocre. I see so much begging marketing, and that's where it's like, hey, we're a family-owned business. Here's my kid. Please do business with him. He needs to eat. Right? Have you ever seen that, Dr. Flory? Are you familiar with the?
I think I've seen that exact ad.
Right? You should be building the kind of business that speaks directly to what's going on in the heads and the hearts of your target market, and you build your services and your offerings and your products around that, and you fulfill based on that. So you're going to see a lot of that kind of content about all those things that we talked about with this podcast. Every aspect of business, but also every aspect of life, because guess what? We do business. Well, Dr. Flory, did you start life to do more business?
Did I start life to do more business?
Yeah.
I don't think so, because that doesn't sound right.
No, I think we were all born with certain skill sets and maybe a certain calling, depending on your belief. And so that's a fair argument to make. But if you don't feel like your business is giving you more life, do you feel fulfilled?
I'd say no, not truly, right?
Yeah.
Not truly. There's so much that it can come from accomplishing and seeing others accomplish, and being part of that, and
Yeah.
like you said, we have such a great opportunity these days to with so many tools that can help us take away some of the mundane and whatnot that
Mhm.
if we really work on it, we're open to learning how to use some of these tools. There is a lot of potential to really step into that empowerment that is available.
Yeah. Because I own a company called Time for Success, and we do business coaching and consulting, and so we work with business owners every day to build businesses that give them that freedom and that wealth and building that legacy. Those big motivators, but those things are meant to allow you to live more life, to be able to give back more, to do more for your families. I know a lot of people who started their businesses. Have you ever heard people saying, well, I started my business because I wanted to give my kids things that I never had. Yeah, I've heard that a lot, and wanted to create a great lifestyle for myself, for my spouse, my partner. So most of the time, people don't necessarily start businesses because they want to work more. Because let's face it, for a lot of people, you're probably stuck in a job where you're working way too many hours and probably getting paid less than your lowest paid worker. It's time to move beyond that. It's time to challenge yourself and let go of the hard-headedness that gets us stuck there. Let go of some of that ego and listen and act and work on it. Because there's too much good that you can do if you just believed in it and challenged yourself and quit thinking that you're in it alone. You're part of this movement that's happening, and that we're trying to just accelerate and supercharge, of entrepreneurs who they want more passion in life. And they want more control of their life. They want to live life on their terms, and they want to live a great life. And you can do that. You just need to learn how to do awesome sales and marketing, and be able to automate that, and just have those systems in place, have the right people selling for you, the right people marketing for you, those revenue systems. You need to learn how to recruit and retain awesome people that are on mission with you. And you need to learn how to develop processes, automate them, and use them to make sure that you're always fulfilling to that 5-star level. Right. So, and for Time for Success, our mission is really to create better lives by creating better businesses. That's what our mission is. And we really believe that can lead to abundance for everyone. Abundance. Because guess what? You're problem solvers. And so we can solve any problem that might prevent any sort of abundance, because people are like, well, there's not enough resources. I saw an article the other day about this asteroid out there. Okay. And hang with me. This asteroid has more metal in it, more precious metals in it than all of the reserves of the governments in the world. And sure, a few years back, it might be kind of crazy, but China just landed, was it last year? They landed a probe on an asteroid. Think if we could mine that. I mean, there is no limit if we strive for the sky's not the limit anymore, right? Shoot for the stars, and that's infinite if we all work together and think bigger than our day to day. Think bigger than what's challenging you today. Get the resources that you need to help you to motivate you. And, we're going to use this as a segue because guess what? Again, going back to what we were saying before, there's the business strategies that we're going to talk about because we don't just help out with mindset stuff. We do some of that stuff, but we help with the real strategies for growth in business. How do you build a sales and marketing plan? How do you build a people development plan, employee development plan, leadership skills? How to be a better leader. We help with those kind of things. How you automate your business. Sure, all those things. But you can't have business performance without human performance. It's just not going to work. And a lot of the times as leaders, I see people saying, well, this person's not motivated. They're not doing enough. Well, guess what? I'm going to call you because I'm a coach, and I'm going to call you to be a coach. I'm not a very good leader if I don't challenge other people to be better leaders. I'm not a very good coach if I don't teach you how to coach other people, because it might be a challenge for you. It might be a challenge for your employees getting up in the morning and they're beating themselves up and, oh man, I really wanted to get up, but I just couldn't sleep well last night. And so, oh man, it was hard for me to get up and get going. And I hit the snooze button a few times. Well, we need to figure out what those factors are. We need to help more people be more successful because you don't learn this in schools. Maybe one day we'll get to that point. There's some vision for impacting some schools and whatnot as well, and the education system. But unfortunately, most people learn their life skills after school. So we're going to challenge you to listen to this and apply it for yourself and apply it for your team. Be a coach. Take what we have. Think about the people in your life, the people on your team who need it as well. And let's apply it there. So we're going to go ahead and run a quick, do a quick commercial break and a quick commercial break. And then we're going to come back and we're going to dig in with Dr. Flory. What are some of the health issues that can affect motivation? Because we can have all the mindset and do all the mindset stuff we want, but we're not going to get to our peak level. We're not going to get to our optimum level if there's some health stuff that's just getting in the way. So, all right, let's do it. Commercial break. Let's do it. Have you been suffering from chronic pain, disease, or sleep disorders? Did you know that 75 to 90% of disease is caused by inflammation in the body? The sad truth is, most doctors just treat symptoms rather than finding and fixing root causes of inflammation. If you want to fix your health problems, then finding and fixing the cause of the inflammation is a must. It's time to demand this for your health care and start living life to its fullest again. Book a discovery appointment with the Functional Health Team founder, Dr. Flory, to get your answers ASAP at www.functionalhealthteam.com. All right, and we are back. Okay, so Dr. Flory is a sponsor of the show, and I specifically requested that. I said, hey, man, we're working with entrepreneurs, and people are dealing with this every day. I really think that you need to be a sponsor. We need to get your message out there more. We need to get people informed about this basic. If you don't have your health, you ain't got nothing, right? I mean, so many people live so many people live shorter lives, unfulfilled lives because heart disease. Heart disease is one of the Isn't heart disease one of those big things that take people out? Yeah, right. And it's caused by the inflammation that you're talking about. So let's dig into it, man. I'm going to stop talking because you're the expert on this. You're the expert. And so is it true that 75 to 90% of disease is caused by inflammation?
It's very true. And that's not a me statistical. I mean, you'll hear me say that all the time, and I will say that till I'm blue in the face, till people really understand what that means. But it is quite amazing. That's a peer-reviewed medical journal statistic, right? And it kind of depends on which journal article you're looking at that given moment. But yeah, I mean, that's where that range comes from. The low end of what I've seen is about 75%. We're talking the entire ICD-10, the diagnostic code book, right? It's a thick book.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, I've done some live lectures where to really drive this point home, I'll just walk out at the beginning and drop the big book on the floor and let it reverberate through the auditorium and point this out. So yeah, what this really says about what it really says is, for 75 to 90%, for that lion's share of our conditions to have inflammation as the key component that's driving them. What is inflammation, and what does this really mean, right? Do I need to take aspirin? What is the meaning we should derive from this? Well, inflammation is your bottom line, basic first responder in your body, right? It's called into action for a whole series of reasons, right? It could be lots of things. But it's always a threat. The body's perceiving a threat, throwing us into that fight or flight, right? Mode. And while that is a necessary and a useful, genetically coded reaction, okay, and response, that's not something to live in, right?
Yeah.
Not something to live in at all. And, this is the perfect forum to really dive into some of this stuff because, again, this is real and perceived threats, okay? And, so if we're thinking about what are the ongoing thought processes, what do we hear the statistic is, 90%, some high percent of our thoughts daily are just repeated over and over. And, for a business owner, these can be very stressful if we're maybe not fully aware of what it is that we're letting play out in our minds and in our lives and what that impact is on us.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. How we feel can really exacerbate some of those cyclical thoughts that we have, those revolving thoughts. Because, like I was saying earlier, you wake up in the morning, you hit the snooze button, and then you start beating yourself up immediately. I mean, I've been there. I know whenever I'm not feeling well, or if I've worked too hard at night and couldn't quite get up in the morning. I know there's some folks up there that just jump out of bed every day, and we applaud you. But if you're not one of those people, it's okay. There's a ton of motivational speakers and business coaches and all that are like, well, hey, you know what? You just need to jump out of bed and go. You need to do more. You need to work harder. But it's not as simple as that, is it, Dr. Flory?
Well, no. I mean, if there's real reasons why, energy levels are low and, we're not feeling good and we just don't have that, gas in the tank, which, we'll talk about different reasons why that can happen. But, you and I know that those stories we start telling ourselves at that point are going to have a major impact on us moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. And those stories are not necessarily true. And so I think one of the biggest travesties, and I've lived this myself, right? I'm not immune to this, is to when, you've been repeating and kind of realizing a story, but not really framing it in the right perspective to learn from it, to, as some of our teachers like to say, gather more information about it, really learn what it means, and then be able to process that information. So we're ultimately responding intelligently the way we want to, rather than reacting emotionally, right? To something that is likely not even real.
Wow. Well,
so
let's
in that way, it's just to kind of round that out. In that way, that's how something physiological can turn into a mental and emotional, right? And now we have a deeper, more a deeper problem, something that's a little bit more involved to fix, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, let's go ahead and dig in. So what are some of the factors, like the biological, neurological factors that play into motivation and focus?
Sure. I think when we start to talk about this, we can get real deep in the weeds real quick. But to kind of start to break it down into chunks, we've got when we think of our mental acuity, our performance, things like that, I think it's pretty easy to start to talk about neurotransmitters, and we can do that to a certain degree. But we really have to also consider then hormone function, right? And the interesting thing is I almost all the time, if I mention one, I mention the other. Okay, hormones and neurotransmitters. There's a tendency that is supported by the major kind of socially accepted dialogue. There's a tendency to think mechanistically about the body, right? Neurotransmitters are a different thing than hormones, right? Our liver operates independently of our GI tract, right? And this really, honestly, just isn't true. But there's a number of reasons why this idea has been supported and kind of distributed out throughout us. But if we look at those two that we've kind of pointed out, hormones, neurotransmitters, there's a very basic similarity there that I think groups this into one conversation better than anything else, and that's that they're both messengers within the body, right? There are a major messenger system. One just happens to operate over the nerves, okay, the nervous system, and it uses biochemical electricity to release the charge and send the nerve impulse. And on the other hand, you've got hormones that are released into the bloodstream, right? And so they transport to their endpoint via this fluid pathway, and it goes slower, right? And so our body really takes advantage of these for quick responses and things of this nature, rapid feedback alterations and changes based on input that's coming back into our brain from our body. You've got that neurotransmitter system that's rapid fire, right? And then you've got a hormone system that is slower, steadier, right? It might be responsible for a more I guess a slower onset, but a more drawn out response, right? And so these things are not as separate as we might be told. And in that, I think that's important because then we don't tend to think of them as fixing a problem with them or as looking at treatment or looking at strategizing around these things as so different, right? When we think that, hey, they're really trying to do the same thing in the body. So let's start from this point of commonality and move on from there, right? So when you get into these things and now you understand the importance of them and how they relate to each other, and you can start to talk deeper about them, start to go into, okay, well, the hormone system, this is, we know that this is heavily involved in metabolism and things like that, processing of building our energy for the day. And, I think it's obvious, right, that a lot of this motivation conversation has to do with things like our energy and therefore our metabolism and things of this nature.
Yeah. Okay. So there's things like hormones and neurotransmitters and metabolism plays a factor. Let's go into like an example, because I know for a lot of folks, and I use this example a couple times already, but let's dig into kind of the why, what's underlying happening. So let's take that example of the person who's waking up and they're just not feeling it. Okay. And they want to roll over and hit the snooze button a couple times. They finally get out of bed. They're kind of moving slow. They're not really maybe operating at their highest level. They're kind of dragging their feet. What's going on there? Like from a biological standpoint there. What's going on there?
The first thing that makes me think of that scenario right there is that they're probably not. They're carrying on too much of their stressors, right? So, this is where we can get into. Are there steps they could take to make their day a little bit easier? The things they could automate, right? How do they structure their addressing their issues so that they can move beyond them and get back to those empowering aspects of their business. So
Yeah.
this makes me think that this person probably didn't have the type of recovery sleep, right, that's necessary there. And that's a circadian rhythm issue. This is definitely a hormone associated problem that lies in those adrenal glands, right? There's three major classes of hormone that's produced by your adrenal glands. One of them is responsible for recovery from stress. And it's actually fairly familiar to a lot of us. If you ever watched, followed a Major League Baseball team or hockey team or definitely football, why are they using, and I'll ask you, why are they using those cortisol injections? What are they doing with those cortisone injections?
Are they using those for a faster recovery time or?
Yeah. And very directly and succinctly, there's a pain reliever and anti-inflammatory, which then gets you what you were talking about, quicker recovery time, turn around and play,
get
back in the game. So that's one of the classes of hormones, in the sports injury, sports medicine realm. They didn't really come up with anything new. Using cortisone shots is mimicking something the body does, which is use the cortisol produced by the adrenal glands to recover at night, right?
Okay.
You literally, in normal circadian physiology, you wake up in the morning with a ample amount of cortisol, right? So that it can help you deal with your stresses through the day, and it's going to go down and down and down, and then at night it'll build back up again for the next day. Would be a normal cycle. Well, this isn't what happens when here's the thing, right? You got to think these adrenal glands are going through a cyclic production of this hormone to aid in recovery. When what happens when, there's a demand for more and more paper, you're working the people at the paper factory, 3 shifts, to the gills, and all of a sudden you run out of trees, right?
Yeah.
The basic supply that you need. You can't produce more paper, right? Well, this is what happens when we run our stress systems 24/7, right? 365. And eventually we get to that adrenal fatigue, which doesn't mean the gland's tired. It means that you literally just can't produce, and it's not going to be working properly like that. Interestingly enough, I said that this gland has 3 classes of hormone here. And so one is this stress recovery hormone associated with the circadian rhythm. Another is our sex hormones, right? So for women, estrogen balance, and do they have a highly symptomatic cycle, right? For guys, we're literally talking low T, okay? So these are super common issues that affect our performance out there. And so that's another major class of hormone. The third helps to regulate blood pressure. Okay. So what we get in this scenario that you played out there is we have some sort of underlying reason, a cause, right? That is creating a stress response consistently in our body. Maybe this is maybe it's emotional stress, our business relationships, things in our business, but maybe it's a stress that has to do with a microbiome dysfunction, right? I mean, something that's in my wheelhouse and whatnot. But what's interesting about these is when we have this high demand for paper, right? And we got that system that, operating to the max, it starts stealing resources from the other hormones, right? The one that regulates blood pressure, the testosterone, the estrogen balance, right? We start stealing from those categories so that we can recover better and more because we're demanding so much from that cortisol branch of things. And that's not a good thing. Why? Well, because then your testosterone plummets, right? Because you're stealing those raw materials that now we can't produce that. So, this is really one way that this manifests. And, if you've got high cholesterol, this situation is going on with you. And I'm not going to get that deep into the physiology, but, in one-on-one conversations with clients, I can easily outline how this just stress itself right? In this scenario that we just talked about, maybe, involving some sleep, sleep issues, energy issues, things like that, literally plays into high cholesterol. It literally plays into insulin resistance and eventually diabetes, because this same cortisol, when it's elevated, blocks the effectiveness of insulin, right? So we got to understand that this mechanistic view is out the window, okay? And this systematic view, right? This functional systems approach of where are the causes that are associated with the inflammation, with the and the stress, right, that is involved in this inflammation, fight or flight whole thing going on.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of break down what you're saying. You're saying that in this situation where somebody's waking up not feeling it, it might be that there's for some reason it's carrying on maybe too much stress. Their body's not being able to recover from the stress from the day before, and there's certain hormonal factors. Now, are there certain other factors that affect like certain neurotransmitters that maybe their body's not producing enough of, and like melatonin is for sleep, correct?
Yeah, correct. And so something that can really limit melatonin production, and maybe so melatonin is for sleep. It doesn't help you go to sleep, but it helps you sleep deeper, which is definitely what you want,
which is
right?
important for the recovery factor, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That deep sleep is where you're really gonna make that happen. And so, just to kind of outline how some of this plays out in a domino type fashion, which is always the kind of the way that we look at this sort of thing, is that well, melatonin is a downstream product of serotonin, right? Which is a downstream product of a tryptophan, which is an amino acid. So, number one, are we absorbing our amino acids well? Do we have a tryptophan deficiency? Along that chain, some of the B vitamins, especially B6, is really important in the conversion of tryptophan into serotonin, into melatonin, that whole pathway. So are we digesting our food very well? Are we absorbing those nutrients? Those are separate questions, really. It can come down to the way I approach my care, and this, it's a lot less like a formal doctor's visit, and it's a lot more like a doctor-driven health coaching. I mean, that's really what it is. Wow. For those that really want to reverse what they have going on, and we approach it like a coaching, because that's what makes sense these days.
Okay, because just real quick, I mean, because it's about some lifestyle changes. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily about a magic pill, all right? I mean, it's as we need to understand as entrepreneurs, goals are what we have now. Let me start here. What we have now is a result of our current routines and our habits, our thought habits, but also our physical habits and what we're doing, what we're eating, how we're going about doing our day, how we structure our day or don't structure our day. And then goals are really just a different set of results that we want to have. Well, so many coaches out there and motivational speakers like, well, you just gotta work harder and then you're gonna hit your goals. Well, no, not if you want like long-standing effects. You have to look at your routines and your habits, because those are the autopilot that guide you every step along the way, that keep up the motivation, that keep you doing what needs to be done, as opposed to just kind of living life like just whatever feels good in the moment, or whatever unstructured things you might be doing, or just poorly structured. So if we really want to up level our skills, we want to hit those goals and then use it as a stepping stone to get to the next level, we have to develop the habits and routines that are going to give us those goals consistently, so that we can continue to improve our habits and routines. They're going to help us take us to the next level. So one of these things that you're talking about, in terms of like that health coaching, just like with the business coaching, it's about like, okay, what are the things that are happening in your life consistently, that what are you doing in those habits and routines that are giving you these results, right? Is kind of what you're talking about. Okay.
Absolutely. One way I frame it for clients is we have to be intentional about our environment, right? While this body is alive, right? There's one definite rule that is going to be in play, and that is the process of adaptation. Our physical matter will adapt day in, day out, minute to minute, even, right? To our environment. And so our environment becomes way more important than something like our genetics, right? In fact, an observed number, I won't say that, that there's some specific calculation on this that I could, but, we really observed that about 80% of what our results are from our, I look at health a lot frequently. 80% of that comes from that environment, right? Our relationships, is it supportive or is it going to tear down what those goals are? Like you just said right there. So being intentional about that environment, I find is really, really important. And, we see people fall into pitfalls trying to get this straight, right? Some people are like, okay, well, I'll, my goal is this, and I'll be that way once I have this thing. Right. Yeah. Well, that's not going to get you there because you're perpetually kind of living in that lack. I don't have this thing yet. Right. But I'm, and so we just live in that place of we get more of what we're thinking of, which is a lack, which is I don't have these sorts of things. And then you have those people that are just they throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. It's like they're do. And they expect that all that doing will, result in them getting what they want, which really they're the stress, right? They're wearing themselves down. Their physical is going to take a real big hit here. Those hormones, those neurotransmitters.
Well, real quick, what you're saying is all the do is doing on the results. Is that what you're?
It's a giant pile of doo-doo. That's right.
It's a big old pile of doo-doo. All right.
That's right. When really, if we can start from that place of this is what, I see that vision of where I want to be. And I'm going to step into those shoes right now. Right. I'm going to be that person, although I may not be practiced at it. I'm going to be that person because then naturally trickling down from that, I will naturally do the things that this person is, right? What I'm being, and then naturally I will end up having the things that are my goal, right? That I want out of life because I've been doing those things. And I've been doing those things because that's who I am, right?
Awesome. Well, we're coming on to our time, and so I just want to kind of wrap up real quick. I think we're going to need to have you on another time. Hopefully, that gives people a good foundation. Let's just kind of wrap things up. So this is the first episode, and what you're going to expect here in the future is, we're going to get into really the things that you need to take action on your business, the things that you need to practice every day in your business. So this is not just a podcast. This is not just a show. This is a call to action. Take what you've heard today and move on it. So we talked about how you need to not carry those stressors. And some of that is related to your health. What are you eating that's causing more stress in your body? What are you doing in terms of your sleep patterns that are not allowing you to get enough sleep? And we'll have to get into some more of that stuff. I think actually Dr. Flory even has, what's your website for the sleep ebook? I think you've got like a sleep ebook.
Supersleeptonight.com.
Okay, .com. Perfect. So that'll kind of give you some of those ideas, but look at those habits and those routines, especially related around your health, because without your health, you've got nothing, and you can't wake up in the morning feeling ready to go. All right. So would love having you here today, and it's time to go ahead and I think close out the show. Again, take some action, practice this. We'll have Dr. Flory on in the future. There's some things I think that he probably would want to talk about in terms of your gut health and how actually your gut health and what you consume can cause too many of the good bacteria or too many of the bad bacteria, but too many of each or too little of each can actually cause inflammation, cause a lot of problems. So I think we're going to talk about that in the future as well. Not necessarily next week, but we're going to have you on here again soon. And I would love to hear that. So thank you, everybody, today. We appreciate having you on the show. And remember, take this out. Go do it. Without doing it, you just got a bunch of doo-doo, right? So wait. All right. Thank you very much. We loved having you here with us today, but now is the time to put what we talked about into practice. Remember, your family, employees, and community is depending on you to rise up and win. The great news is you're not alone. You're part of a resurgence of entrepreneurs who are ready to take their business, life, and impact to the next level, and we're going to do it together. This show is powered by Time for Success, where we help business owners every day who want more freedom and wealth while building a legacy of positive impact. Please follow Time for Success on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for more helpful strategies and tools for creating the business, life, and impact of your dreams.